Hi everyone, it's Kat. Welcome back. Today, instead of focusing just purely on relaxation, I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens when you may be experiencing an emotion that is maybe getting in the way of your ability to relax. And this actually came up because a really good dear friend of mine, who I'm dedicating today's video to, asked me what to do when you're feeling angry, especially around a certain situation. And this actually falls in line really closely with actually some studying that I'm doing myself in a program that I've been part of for a while. We actually happen to be focusing on anger this month, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about releasing anger, managing anger, and even some of the signals that anger is sending us that can actually be healthy because it lets us know something's going on. And so it was just perfect timing that I had a friend ask me this question because it's something I've been contemplating a lot myself, and also working with my children on because, as you know, younger kids aren't as good at regulating their emotions just because their brains aren't developed to that point. And so we work a lot to help them figure out ways to manage their emotions so that they don't get stuck in their body and cause different kinds of issues for them. So, some of what I'm going to share with you today, I've learned from both my teacher, Amy Taylor Kabaz, and also one of the women that works alongside her, Jade Cahill. And I will note links to them in the notes because I wanted to make sure to credit them. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about a couple other teachers that I'll link, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So I wanted to start with talking about the fact that in our culture, we often try to fast track through emotions, right? We've gotten better about thinking about ways to relax our body, relax our mind, and maybe to start using the practices that we're engaging in to achieve that goal to help us, kind of stay pretty even keeled most of the time. The problem is that sometimes we want to skip over the emotions that are dysregulating us in the first place. And when I say dysregulation, I mean that, and this is something I hope to discuss in a future video, but we all exist kind of within what we call a window of tolerance. And that's when we're feeling pretty calm in our bodies, our executive functioning is doing what it kind of needs to do. But when we either are feeling really sad or depressed, or maybe numbed out, or we're feeling, angry, upset, kind of elevate any of those kind of elevated emotions, we fall outside that window. And so when I'm referring to being dysregulated, that's what I mean. You're either kind of have your emotions really elevated, or it may be feeling a little bit disconnected or numbed out. And so, we often, our goal, is to stay in that window. And we talk a lot about meditation, yoga, some other practices like Tai Chi, that are very meditative in nature that can help us kind of try to stay as much as possible in that calm space and also return to that calm space when we become dysregulated. The problem is sometimes we're missing a few steps. And that includes finding a way often to release, especially when you're having those elevated emotions, how to release the energy buildup that we're feeling in our bodies. And the problem is if we skip over that, we still may be holding on to it, and it can make it harder, to sit in meditation or to engage in mindfulness practices because our brain's still going to be jumping all over the place and we're going to still be having a lot of the effects of it going on in our body because our bodies do release chemicals and engage muscles and things like that, especially when we're feeling angry, upset, threatened in any way. And if we don't deal with that, that can turn into some other, sometimes chronic issues in our bodies. So, what I said to my friend when she asked me about that is that, before you jump into maybe trying to figure out what the anger is telling you, or jump into like, some kind of meditative mindfulness practice to kind of bring your energy back into that more regulated space, you may need to do some things to release that energy. And so I'm going to share some of that with you today. I've been learning some more structured practices for this that I don't have time to get into today. Hopefully, I can do that in the future. But part of what I have been learning through the teachers that I mentioned is certain activities or even just actions that you can take. So, it would be great if you could sit and do a 20-30 minute practice where you're kind of layering some of these practices. But if you don't, even sometimes just doing one of them can be really helpful. And so some examples of these are doing things like punching. So if you think about it, it's very easy. If you like, you can grab a pillow, or if you have one of those, pop-up punching bags, or you have a heavy bag, you can use any of that, or you can just do it in the air. So simply you're sitting and you're punching, right? And if you want to bring in some breath work to that, you can inhale, exhale. And when you're doing something like this, you want to do it for a few minutes. According to my teacher, it's kind of around the 2 to 3 minute mark of doing a practice like this that you start to actually feel an energy shift in your body. And again, I can get a little bit more into that in a future video. But just for time's sake today, doing something like punching, um, either with or without the breath work. The breath work just intensifies the benefit of it. But if you can do something like that for about 3 minutes, either into the air or into a pillow, or something along those lines, that can be really helpful. Another one of these is chopping. So bring your hands above your head and just, so inhale, chop. Again, continuing it for 3 minutes. And that's one of those things that you're definitely going to feel, right? If you're doing this repeatedly, especially with straight arms for 3 minutes, you will feel it. But like I said, it's in that 2 to 3 minute window mark where you'll feel the magic of the shift. You'll be starting to say, I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is starting to hurt. This is getting hard. But if you can stick with it and really give yourself some positive self-talk, like, I can do this, I am strong enough. That can really help. So punching and chopping are two. And another really super simple one is just shaking. And the reason that we do the shaking is that this is actually something that bodies tend to do naturally anyway. I've heard it, quoted by many people. It's hard to attribute this to one, that often if animals are in a situation where their lives are being threatened and they are able to survive that, they may often, once the actual threat passes, start to shake. And that's a way of releasing that buildup of energy. Because like I said, often especially if you're being threatened or you're going into, again, I know I keep mentioning the fight or flight mode, which I'd like to explain a little bit more in a future video. But part of what happens when you're in that fight or flight mode is that your body's releasing adrenaline and cortisol. You're releasing sugars into your bloodstream to give you more energy to fight or run. You're tensing up your muscles. Blood's being diverted away from sort of your main organs into your muscles, again, so that you can fight or run really quickly, more so than you would be able to under normal circumstances. And so the shaking helps release that so that you can go back into that regulated space. The problem is, for humans, we have sort of left that idea behind. And again, we either just try to move on and like kind of suppress the feelings, or we jump into, okay, how can I relax? But if you're skipping that step, again, a lot of that can get held in your body, like the physical, like the sugars, and the muscle tension and things like that can get held and can either cause short-term or long-term physical health issues. And your mind stays really active and busy. So it's hard to kind of relax if you're still trying to process everything that's happened. So sometimes, just if you're feeling angry, frustrated, upset about something, you have a kid that's having a tantrum, which is maybe making you want to have a tantrum, just shaking, like shaking your arms, shaking your head, shaking your legs. Sometimes doing it, getting on your back on the floor. This is my teacher Jade has shared this, getting on your back, just like kind of shaking everything. Can help release that energy and, maybe bring some laughter into the experience, which I talked about in the last video, can also be really helpful mentally and emotionally and physically, to laugh. So those are just a few quick things. And like I said, hopefully I can do a more comprehensive video on this, but I just wanted to be able to throw these out as a few things that you can think about, utilizing or trying out when you're feeling upset, to try to have kind of like a quick release of energy. Um, and like I said, it's something you can do if you're even having an argument with somebody or trying to deal with a tantrum. Get the people around you to do it with you. Sometimes it helps to throw on some like fast music and get yourself going. And then one other thing that popped into my head that again is a very big topic that I will try to get into more in a future video is that if it's one instance where maybe you've had something specific happen that you're trying to release some anger or kind of like more toxic energy around. But if you find yourself going through a period of time where you're feeling really angry or irritated, you might want to consider that there's some other things going on. And so, something else that I'm studying at the moment with an amazing teacher, her name is Katie Rose, and I will link her information too, is Ayurveda. And I've done some past studies in Ayurveda with another wonderful teacher named Jen Birchfield, who I'll also link. And one of the things that we talk about in Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga, is that if you're constantly feeling a sense of anger or irritability, you could have an imbalance in what's called the Pitta dosha. Again, Ayurveda is a very big topic that I'd love to get into more right now or in a future video. But just you can think about, especially anger can be, like I said, it can be an imbalance in the Pitta dosha or the Pitta. It's a sign that the Pitta dosha is out of balance, which is a component of your constitution. And so what that means is that um, you have an excess of what we call heat or fire in your system. And ways that you can start addressing that is bringing certain kind of cooling practices or foods into your life. And that's great this time of year, especially because if you're in the Northern Hemisphere like me, it's summer and it's getting hot anyway. So these can be helpful whether you're struggling with anger and irritability or you're just really hot and need to cool the body down. But a few things that you can think about are cooling foods. Anything like a cold drink. You usually want to avoid anything that's too cold, but like a cool drink or something like chamomile or mint. You can also use chamomile or mint oils. You can put them, especially in the back of your neck, like a mint oil diluted in maybe coconut oil could be really helpful. Sorry for the background noise. Cooling breath practices. So rolling your tongue like this and inhaling and breathing out with that cool tongue is a cooling breath practice that can really help. Massaging your body with coconut oil, which is cooling, can be really helpful. If you are not able to do like a full body massage, you can think about at least massaging your feet and legs, soaking in cool water, or at least like a cooling foot bath or some things, and also meditation. So any kind of like slower flow, restorative yoga or meditation practices can be really helpful as well for bringing down that pitta energy. So those are just a few helpful hints for today, and I hope that they're helpful. If you have any questions, please post them below, and hopefully I can expand on some of these topics in a future video.